following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Tier Tuesdays here with the HighLowSports podcast. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host Kelsey. And Kelsey, it is a super week for a super game at the end of the weekend. So we decided for Tier Tuesdays, we're going to do something, you guessed it, super.
Yeah, it is the week before the Super Bowl, and everybody's out in Vegas, including Coyotes. If you haven't heard that story, go check that out. It's hilarious. But yeah, no, it's an absolutely fun time. I can't wait to do this tiers. This tiers is going to be a pretty fun list.
Absolutely, but we'll get right into it. We're doing Super Bowl MVPs going back about a decade now to the 2014 season. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it here as well. And we're going to start from the top and work our way to the bottom. At the top, we got 2014 Tom Brady against the Legion of Boom. 4 touchdowns, 4 different receivers, 10-point fourth quarter comeback against an arguable one of the top defenses of all time. 28-24, we all know the story with that one as well, too. And finally getting that 10-year monkey off his back and getting that Super Bowl after his early three out of 4. Clear MVP. These guys, it was pretty obvious they were the MVP. Cooper Kupp, 2 touchdowns, just under 100 yards. I know Odell was off to a hellacious start, but that was Cooper Kupp's Super Bowl MVP every second after that as well. 2 touchdowns, and for one of the few times where a fourth quarter Super Bowl winning drive was ran through a receiver, not a quarterback. Matthew Stafford was good, but it was number 10 or nothing. And the next, we're looking at Nick Foles, and 300-plus yards on that Bill Belichick defense, 3 touchdowns. That was Nick Foles' Super Bowl run as a whole, but that Super Bowl MVP, he well earned that one. Then Von Miller in that very defensive-heavy Super Bowl as well, where the offense is just kind of punted. Von Miller was responsible for points with that strip sack as well, too. Multiple tackles for loss. So Von Miller clear MVP in that one. MVP caliber performances. These were very, very clearly MVP caliber performances. Julian Edelman in one of the worst offensive Super Bowls of all time. 11 catches for 140 yards and accounted for like 60% of the Patriots' total yards, because that was just 13-3 is all you need to hear about that one. That was the score. And then Patrick Mahomes, we're looking at him last year against the Eagles. 95 QBR, 182 yards only, but 3 touchdowns and 21 of 28 passing. And the biggest thing in there is no sacks given up against that Eagles defense that had 70 sacks on the season. Some of that's the offensive line, some of that's Patrick Mahomes getting the ball out of his hands and maneuvering. So, and the next, still a very, very good game. We're going to Patrick Mahomes' OG Super Bowl in 2019 against a similar team that he's facing right now, the 49ers. 3 total touchdowns, 1 rushing, 2 passing, including that late fourth quarter comeback. But he did have the 2 picks, including the one in the fourth quarter that, in theory, should have basically cost him the game. But unfortunately, the 49ers got a 49er. And just overall, it's still a very good game. Could go to somebody else. We're looking at Tom Brady in Tampa. 3 touchdowns, 200 yards, a good Super Bowl. You could have given it to Gronk with his 2 touchdowns. Could have given it to Devin White with his 12 tackles, pass deflection, interception. That game was basically over about 7.5 minutes in, when it was very clear that the defensive front line is going to harass Patrick Mahomes all day long. Tom Brady, it's not that he shouldn't have got it, but you could make a case elsewhere. And then the last one, the 28-3, Tom Brady, 62 passing attempts, 440 passing yards. Great job, but 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. James White had 2 rushing touchdowns, the game-winning one in overtime, plus 14 catches for north of 100 yards and a touchdown as well. So he accounted for 140 yards and 3 touchdowns. Should have been James White. Even Tom Brady gave him the Super Bowl MVP truck afterwards. So here's what we're looking at for Super Bowl MVP tiers, Kelsey. Where are we looking at here? What are we feeling? I know the last one's locked in place, but how are we looking elsewhere?
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I was looking at this, and I kept thinking Malcolm Smith was going to make this list. But he was just a year too late, or too early, I guess I should say.
We probably should have, so they'd be the even 10 years thing, but I know how Super Bowl season and then when it took place, it gets a little bit goofy. So I just went directly back the 10 years to the 2014 season. But technically, in theory, Malcolm Smith, 2013 season, Super Bowl game 14 could have made a case for, but he would probably go somewhere in the still had a very good game, could go to somewhere else category.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's obviously the MVP, but just, could have been whatever. No, I think, top tier, obviously, Brady, yes. No, duh. Clear MVPs. Every one of these I agree with. Von Miller, if it wasn't for his strip sack, that game is on a completely different trajectory. Nick Foles, I mean, enough said. Cooper Kupp, if you don't understand why Cooper Kupp was a clear MVP in his performance, blasphemy. Just absolute blasphemy. You don't know, like, that's I don't like to say this phrase, and we've talked about this before on the show. We actually did a whole segment on it about the phrase "you don't know ball." Um, if you think Cooper Kupp was not the clear MVP, you don't know ball at that point in time. Your last name must be Beckham, and you must be about 65 years old and the father of a young man named Odell. Um, that seems to be the only way that you think that. So yeah, those top four I agree with wholeheartedly. MVP caliber performance, I mean, yeah.
Hmm.
it's, it is what it is. Julian Edelman, I might even say was a clear MVP. There was no other offense in that game. 10 receptions, 141 yards, literally nothing else. He was as clear cut as it got from an MVP caliber performance. So yeah. I mean, while it was MVP caliber performance, realistically, it's really he was a clear MVP in my eyes. So I think maybe that one needs to be moved up. I don't disagree with Patty being MVP caliber performance though. I think that's safe to say. Um, then the second Patty, obviously, yeah. I mean, maybe the lowest ranked performance of any of these, as far as not should have been somebody else. Like he still should have been the MVP, but man, that was like one of the most boring games I've ever watched. Not really one of the most boring. I watched a 13-3 Patriots game, so what am I talking about?
Hmm.
But yeah, it still felt really, whatever. Could go to someone else. I don't know who you'd give it to here. I think this category for Brady, I just can't think of who would actually have had a performance that was worthy of replacing him. Do I think it was a great performance? No. Was it efficient? Yeah, 21-29. It's hard to beat that. But I just don't think there's anybody I would replace him with. And this last one, I stand by this and I will die on this hill. James White should be a Super Bowl MVP. Period.
1000%.
End of conversation. I mean, that it is as much Brady love as I have ever seen in the entirety of all sports to give him that MVP over James White. It is literally high school prom all over again, where it is a popularity contest. It's like, is your name Tom Brady? Are you dating Giselle Bundchen, or at the time married to Giselle? If the answer is to yes to both of these questions, you have earned the MVP. And if the answer is no, sorry, close but no cigar. Like that's trash. Yeah. Tom Brady should not be a two-time, but three-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP in his career.
Let's see. We got 3 here, plus he had the 2 earlier, so that's 5-time Super Bowl MVP.
Oh
5 out of
yeah,
the
okay. Yeah, I keep forgetting about the early two. Yeah, I mean, I think this list is fine. I don't disagree with any of them. I'd say the biggest one being Julian Edelman. I think he would be the one that I would like to be moved up, just because there was no other offense in that game. I mean,
So the
it
only
was
thing that's missing is he didn't get the 1 touchdown in the game that went to Sony Michel, who also had 100 just under 100 yards. So I guess he could have made a small case. But like we were kind of in agreement. It was Julian Edelman, and what is everyone else doing today?
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised I didn't give that one to Tom Brady, just for ish and giggles. That one would have been, we'd had a second category down here saying what.
the difference. I mean, you really look at that. The big difference between Julian Edelman and Cooper Kupp is the touchdown.
And Cooper had 2 of them, really.
Well,
Yeah, fewer catches
just general getting in the end zone. Like if Edelman gets that end zone, we're talking maybe one of the greatest performances from receiver ever, at least the most unstoppable performance next to Cooper Kupp, because what Cooper Kupp did that season, and then most importantly in that Super Bowl, was insane. Everybody knew the ball was going to him, and it didn't matter. Julian Edelman, everybody knew the ball was going to him in that game. 10 receptions, 141 yards. There's no answer for him. Like, what else are you going to do if you're Tom? He's efficient, makes the smart plays. Well, that means go to Julian Edelman in that situation. So, yeah, I mean, between those two, I love as MVP candidates. Everybody else, I think, is absolutely perfect where they are. The Tom Brady could have gone to somebody else. I mean, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I just don't know who to put him. I don't know where to put Tom Brady, if that makes sense.
I still stand by. I think you could have made a reasonable case that it should have gone to Gronkowski that year. He had 2 touchdowns and roughly 40% of the total receiving yards, and was a leading receiver for both teams as well, too. So, or not both teams, for the Patriots. So, sorry, the Buccaneers. There we go. But I'm saying you could have made a very strong, reasonable case for Gronkowski in that one, considering that game was over. Oh, that game was over really early. So, for a second, everything after that, they just handed the ball to playoff Lenny, who just kind of killed clock at that point.
Yeah, playoff Lenny was a different beast. It's funny though. We have 3 Bradys, and we just talked about he had 5 all time. These might have been the most extreme versions of Brady in the Super Bowl we've ever seen. You had top tier, obviously, in the comeback. And then
Arguably one of the best performances of all time in the Super Bowl too. Just not just in this time span we gave, but you encompass all of them.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's actually a list out there that ranks the top 57 Super Bowl MVP, so all-time 50 Super Bowl MVPs. That performance against the Falcons, the 5th best all time. The ones before that were the 49ers dynasty era and Doug Williams.
They actually put the Falcons one that high with when it should have gone to James White. I'm surprised.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's 43, 62, 466, but yeah, it should have gone to James White. But no, I mean, look, it's funny you see it all, and then his other 2 MVPs, maybe 2 of the best we've ever seen in his career. Otherwise, not on this list. Like, I think it's crazy that Tom Brady could have 5 on this list, and that you would literally put 3 of those 5 in the clear MVP or higher category.
Oh yeah, we can make a Tom Brady specific tier list of how many he has to work with at this point, or just go. We can make a 7-tier list with just his performances in just wins and losses. We could go with all of them. I mean, 10. You know what? That might be something we do later. We'll make it a Tom Brady.
Fantastic performance, lost to a helmet.
He'll definitely lead. You know what? They only scored 14 points that game, so maybe
Wasn't a fantastic performance.
Either way, that's what we're looking at for Super Bowl MVPs here ahead of the Super Bowl coming up this weekend as well. To let us know what you think down below and where you would move people around as well. So be sure to tune into our live show Wednesday night or one of your favorite places to catch podcasts afterwards, and we'll see you all again next week.
And don't let the Coyotes get you if you're in Vegas.